What's up, guys? So today we're going to be creating a tier list based on how good an agent is if you main them. So the things we're going to keep into consideration are the maps that they're good at, what is required to make them good, as well as how long they can be useful for, meaning that like it might be good at, let's say, iron, bronze, silver, but as you start climbing the ranks, maybe toward diamond, ascendant, immortal, and then eventually radiant, will they still be good then? So with these different qualifications, we're going to set 5 different tier levels. S tier being that they're good everywhere, A tier meaning that they're a solid pick, B tier means that they're okay on a lot of maps, C tier being meh, and D tier being why are we even playing this agent. So we're gonna start from D tier, and with D tier I have to say sorry, but it's going to be Cypher and Killjoy. So I will definitely put Killjoy above Cypher, but most of the reason is that they're overshadowed by Chamber. Chamber is definitely just kind of shuts out most of the Sentinel category, and if we look at the maps where Cypher is great at, there kinda isn't any anymore. None that you would pick him over Chamber for. And the same thing comes with Killjoy, except with the exception of Ascent. But even on Ascent, you're not gonna see her played all the time because a lot of people would rather play Chamber. So with that being said, that's why I put them at the D tier. I will say with a caveat that these agents are very good toward the beginners slash the middle ranks of Valorant, since they allow you to play off your utility very well and get you a lot of information without a lot of work. But as you start climbing up the ranks, you start finding out, hey, I'd rather have more impact, and usually that results in you playing a different agent. By the way, if you guys have never tried Fresca, is bomb. Moving on, with C tier, we have meh. We're gonna start out with Neon. Now, I know a lot of you guys are gonna be like, I like playing this agent. That's completely fine. She is definitely a very fun agent, and there's definitely a high skill ceiling to her. But if we're gonna look at the amount of viability towards the end game, you're gonna start noticing that, hey, Neon only has 1, maybe 2 maps where she's consistently used and has a consistent playstyle, and that would be Fracture and Breeze. In other cases, yes, she can work on other maps, but she's not gonna be the go-to pick there. So if you decide to main her, you're gonna find that you're gonna struggle there and that your team doesn't even know how to play around you. Next up is Phoenix, and I know I might get a little bit hate here since his flash did get buffed, but he still isn't quite good enough. The one map where he definitely excels at is still Haven, and he's been known for that even before the buff. You play Phoenix because of 2 reasons, his ult and his flash. And his flash has its downsides where it needs to be close range. And yes, his ult is strong, but you really need to be playing on certain maps where the ult orbs are very easy to get. He doesn't have a lot of information, and his other 2 abilities with his flame wall and his molly are usually pretty dead abilities, making you wish you had a lot more. And the last agent I'm going to be putting on this C tier is Breach. Now, Breach has a really insane pick rate on Fracture. He's just super strong, and it makes a lot of sense. His ult is perfect for taking as well as retaking, and for all of the A main on Fracture, you can kind of stun down the entire thing and get a lot of control that way. But besides that, on every other map, usually you won't see a Breach, and that's because there are easier picks to use that could provide a lot more value. Breach is good on maps where you don't need so much information, and you can play really well off of sound, which makes him a very one-sided agent and less versatile. And for B tier, these agents are okay on a lot of maps. We're gonna start with Brimstone. Brimstone's not the best on a lot of maps, but he's definitely not bad on a lot of maps. Bind is his one saving grace, where he's literally probably the most picked smoke agent. Besides Bind, you're gonna find that on almost every other map, minus the ones with Viper, because that's a whole nother story. Brimstone's not a bad pick, and if you want to just get okay at Brimstone, you would be pretty well along your ranked grind, having that being your only controller that you know. Next is Reyna. Reyna doesn't have any specific maps she's amazing at. She's just, in general, all her abilities realistically don't really depend on the map. Her flashes work perfectly fine on every single map, and the Devour slash Dismiss just requires her to get kills, which are the same essentially on every other map. As long as you can play well as Reyna, you will find that she's pretty good. Now, the reason why she's at B tier is obviously because she doesn't stand out on any specific map. So as you start getting up the rank and you need specialized agents to do a specialized thing, you're gonna find Reyna being a little lackluster. Next, we're gonna throw Yoru here. So Yoru is also in the similar boat as Reyna. It has a very high skill ceiling, but the issue is he doesn't really have a significant playstyle or a standard playstyle that other teammates can really play off of. Even if you watch the best Yorus out there, off the top of my head, that's like Exter, Who Framed Me, and Ethos and Cody, they all have significantly different playstyles. While being a good agent with a high skill cap, it really requires requires you being very good at the agent, and it's not the easiest thing to do, as the plays you see will be pretty hard to replicate. He doesn't really have any specific maps where he's insane at. You can say bind because of the teleporters, but you're also gonna find that, you know, there are some better agents that have more consistent value that you would rather pick over Yoru. Now for the final one in the B tier, we have Asha, is my favorite agent, and unlucky that she is here. So the maps that I think she's still very strong at are Ascent, Pearl, and then Haven, depending on if you like playing Astra. Haven is notoriously known as an Omen map, but if you want to play Asha, I've proven it in my own ranked games, having a really high win rate on the Asha, even in higher Immortal/Radiant lobbies, that she's definitely doable. But obviously this is a biased opinion toward myself. She's not necessarily bad on certain maps. Like, she could be played on Bind, although there are better picks, and she could be played on Fracture, although there are better picks. But knowing Astra will still allow you to play those maps, just maybe not the most optimally. For our A tier, we have our solid picks. Now these agents have a lot of strong suits for them, so let's go into it. Number one, starting with Sage. You never complain when you have a Sage on your team. Sage's wall always gets value, slows always gets value, you always get a res at some point, that's always value. You're never gonna complain when you have a Sage on your team. So practicing Sage, although she doesn't have many maps where she's the best at, she has 0 maps where she is hated at, and most of the time she is a pretty okay pick, especially if you're comfortable on her. Next, we're gonna talk about KO. KO just can suppress. That's the biggest thing. No other agent can do that. That's something that's irreplaceable. So as long as he is the only one that can do that, you'll find that his ability to be played on most maps is pretty strong. No command is a free entry, shuts down a lot of ults like Ray's ult, and you get info on top of it. Sounds like a win-win to me. Now we have Jett. Similar to the situation with Sage, Jett does what she does well, and every map requires this, which is an entry. She can dash into sight really easily, clear up a lot of space, she can AWP, and she can get out just as easily. She has knives that she can occasionally just pop off with, making sometimes the ecos just as dangerous as the gun rounds. Now we have Skye. Skye has one of the most versatile kits in the game. She's able to heal. She has information in her dog, as well as the flashes telling her if someone is nearby, and her ult is also super good for entering and just finding out where majority of the enemy is. She doesn't have too many maps where she is the best pick at, but like Sage and like Jett, she's generally always a good pick. And lastly, for the A tier, we're gonna put Raze. So I would actually put Raze slightly ahead of Jett. Yes, Raze can't AWP, but if we're gonna consider the S tier later on, you don't really need an AWP on Raze or Jett. You have someone better. Raze's utility is just in general better than Jett's. Satchel, yeah, we can say it's not as good as the dash, but has other utility such as breaking trips or just giving her the vertical movement that she can use her showstopper with. Her nade clears a lot of space. Her Roomba or her Boombot is just really good at clearing specific hallways, and that's stuff that Jett just can't really provide. So I would put Raze in front of Jett. There are times where Raze sucks a little bit more, so specifically I'm thinking about the map Breeze, because there's so much distance to cover and your nade is likely not going to do very much. But besides that, on majority of the maps, you're going to find that Raze is probably better than Jett. Now for the S tier, this is going to be a little bit weird because I'm going to have a few options. So before we go into that, let's start with just Chamber. S tier. You guys don't need to hear. You guys already know. Trip covers something for him. He gets a Pocket Guardian on pistol round and on any ecos. Gets a free AWP every couple rounds. And then he's allowed to TP consistently, being perfect for getting early picks on the attack and defense, as well as just a great lurker. Honestly, a lot of your games come down to whether your Chamber does his job well, because he has the best utility to get you the most kills. Pretty much every map has a Chamber, and there's good reason for it. Combined with a Jett or a Neon, you'll find that you don't need to eco a lot of rounds because you essentially have your own weapons in your ult. Now the next two I'm going to be putting are Silva and Fade, and the reason why I'm putting both of these is they're kind of interchangeable. They're at S tier because you're gonna need one of them. Almost on every single map you have either a Fade or a Silva. It ultimately comes down to your personal preference and what agent you like to play, but the fact that you can scan people through walls, behind smokes, as well as get a lot of information, these two agents get you the most out of any other information gathering agent. Now the next two I'm putting Omen and Viper, and that's because Omen can be played on pretty much any map that requires a dome smoke. So realistically, that's every map minus Icebox and Breeze. Icebox and Breeze require Viper, which is why I am saying that if you're going to play a controller, you actually have to play two. Most ranked will only have one controller, so if you're trying to be solo, you're gonna need to play Viper just specifically for those two maps at the very minimum if you don't want to play Viper that much, and you can play Omen for the rest. But from my personal experience, I played Viper on Breeze, Icebox, Fracture, and then I used to play Omen at everything else. So while it seems like like that Viper isn't good on that many maps. If you're going for the controller specific role, I'm going to say that you need to play her. And just trying to explain it a little bit further, it's just that every other agent can kind of be replaced, but you need smokes on every map. So this is obviously my opinion. If you guys disagree, comment down, let me know. I'd love to discuss this. If you enjoyed the content, remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. But besides that, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out.